blind stranger, traveling through this world of woe. But there's no sickness, toil, nor danger in that bright world to which I go. I'm going there to see my Father. I'm going there no more to roam. I'm only going over Jordan. I'm only going over home. That's the whole presentation. This is less about football and more about life. That's what Coach Z used to tell me every day, it seems like, throughout my high school years. And the lessons that my teammates and I learned about teamwork, camaraderie, hard work, and perseverance, those have all stuck with me ever since then and have informed the way that I live my life. As we have embarked on the journey to be professional singers and voice teachers, we have found that a lot of those same kinds of lessons can be found in the world of singing and are applicable to our everyday lives. One of the key parallels that we have found is that successful singing, just like successful living, is not so much the result of randomness, chance, fate, or luck, but rather of intentional choices that we make, of working in harmony with other people, cooperating to boost each other, and to bring beauty and connection into this world. Many people will use the term harmonic convergence to describe seemingly random events in their lives that lead either to success or to failure. But what does this term mean? What is harmonic convergence anyway? Let's think of it as the combining or the alignment of waves of energy. And when those peaks of those waves come together, they boost each other, creating a much larger wave, just as when two waves in the ocean collide with each other. Classical singers create this harmonic convergence on a continuous basis when they sing. We hone the resonant frequencies in our voices to combine and align, to boost each other, and to self-amplify so that we can be heard over the sound of an orchestra or in a large space such as this one without the use of these microphones. The same phenomenon can be seen in our personal interactions, in our interpersonal relationships. For example, think of a time when you may have been engaged in a creative brainstorming session with somebody or with a group of people. You can feel those ideas bouncing off one another. There's excitement, there's electricity from that. You can virtually feel the creative energy flowing between all of you, combining and aligning so that you come up with ideas that no single person could have come up with on their own. Think of how reinvigorated and energized you feel after those kinds of interactions.
So what is the purpose of music? Most people would say that our job is to entertain, and we would agree, but perhaps not for the reasons that you would think. The word entertain comes from two French words, The first, entre, meaning between. And the second, tenir, meaning to hold. So entertainment is something that holds between or connects. Normally, we use this word to mean a sort of divertisement, a distraction from the stresses of our everyday lives. At the end of a difficult work week, we go to the concert hall to forget all of the stresses that have built up over the course of the preceding days. And we are happy to offer that sort of reprieve. But that's not our purpose. As musicians, we have an enormous responsibility to change the world. So, how is that change achieved through music? I'd like everyone to take a moment to look around you at your fellow audience members. Perhaps you noticed, or perhaps you didn't, that there are people in this audience of all different races and ages. I would venture to guess that there are people with differing religious beliefs and political ideologies, people with more or less education, with more or less money in their bank accounts, people of different sexual orientations, people who are outdoorsy and indoorsy. But when the music started, none of that mattered. Because music reminds us of our shared humanity by creating a shared human experience. It breaks down the walls that we have built up between ourselves in society. It helps us to remember our commonalities and to build unity in our communities. Music builds bridges. It creates connections, and it dissolves divisions. It is the universal language because it speaks directly to our souls.
Music can reveal to us that the connections we have between ourselves have always been there. They have always existed, but they may have just been obscured by those divisions that we place on ourselves because of the way that we live in our societies. This became very clear to me for the first time in 2015, when I took a group of college students on a choir tour through Romania. Of all the life-changing experiences that we had on that trip, the one that sticks out the most in my mind was our final performance at a men's prison in a town called Ploiești. As we entered into the prison gates for the first time, it was immediately clear to us that we were in a highly oppressive environment, one that was devoid of any freedoms. Although it was a bright, sunny day in the summertime, when we were inside the compound, it was dark and cold. There were stern-looking prison guards smoking cigarettes, staring at us. There were even sterner-looking inmates behind bars, watching as we walked silently in single file down the hallways. As we made our way into an outdoor courtyard in the center of the compound, we felt a great deal of fear, discomfort. We didn't feel like we belonged there. We were surrounded on all sides by concrete walls, concrete floor, barbed wire and chain link over our heads to make sure that nobody could climb out. We were on one side of this courtyard, and about 25 feet away on the other side were a group of inmates that were waiting to be our audience. And while there was no physical barrier that separated us, we perceived there to be a very real, invisible barrier that divided us from them, the good guys from the bad guys, right from wrong. Certainly, we were not the same kind of humans that they were. We were here out of the goodness of our hearts, out of our own free will. They were here because of choices they had made in their lives, because of who they were. This was not a great mindset from which to start a connective experience, a concert of vocal music. But scared though we were, we began to sing. And with each successive song, those feelings of division and fear began to melt away until by the end of that concert, that invisible barrier that had seemed so real to us just a few moments before, it had all but vanished. All that remained was to go and make actual physical contact with these people. And so when we were done singing, I walked over and I shook each of their hands and I greeted them. And I was met with the most incredible sense of grace and gratitude and a profound joy that I could never have expected coming from people who lived in a situation such as theirs. The students all followed suit, and we quickly realized that we were no different from them. There really were no divisions there. Sure, there were surface level differences. They spoke a different language. They had very different circumstances in their lives. But we had the same fundamental humanity. We felt the same human emotions: love, joy, hope, fear. We shared all of those emotions at the same time in the same place. And it was music that revealed that connection to us. It was music that dissolved that division.
There's an incredible synergy that can happen between a performer and her audience, but I didn't always know it. I used to be terrified of performing. I had done it enough that I could fake my way through, but I never enjoyed the process of preparing because I was always so scared that some technical error, a cracked high note or a breath in the middle of a phrase, forgotten words, would mar my performance and reflect poorly on me. This fear had not vanished 2 years ago when my husband and I were invited to sing at Carnegie Hall. I remember sitting backstage and trembling in fear. And I began to examine that fear. And it occurred to me that in order to be afraid of giving a performance, I had to assume that my audience was there to judge me, to criticize me, even to mock me. And that seemed absurd, frankly, because I had never gone into a concert hall with the expectation that I would leave mocking my performer. When I go to a performance, I go with the hope that I will be moved, transformed by the music, with the hope that I will catch a glimpse of the magic that happens when a composer's heart and a performer's soul come together to create something that has never existed before that moment. And so when I stepped out onto the stage to sing my first aria of the evening, I didn't see my audience as an angry mob of critics who would come after me with pitchforks if I made a mistake, but instead as humans who had come to share in a human experience, to break down barriers. And so when I began to sing, I did so from a place of serving my audience, from a place of thanksgiving. And the most amazing thing happened. As I was singing to them, I could feel their gratitude pouring back to me, and it amplified my own gratitude. It was a harmonic convergence. That night, I conquered one of my life's biggest fears. But even more importantly, I found joy in the music, and I learned that in music and in life, connection and not perfection is the goal.
Composer Paul Hindemith said that people who make music together cannot be enemies, at least as long as the music lasts. A musical ensemble is comprised of a diverse group of people, different voice types and different instruments, each with their own individual timbre, tone quality, different ranges, something unique that they bring to the table. And when they play together, they make a unified sound that is greater than the sum of all of its parts. They bring beauty and connection into this world. We as humans can either choose to come together in fear of our differences and in opposition of one another, or we can come together in celebration of those differences, complementing each other, boosting one another, so that we can create something together that is greater than each of us individually. In essence, we can become an ensemble of humanity that brings that beauty and that connection into this world on a grand scale.
Music has a unique way of forging connections between people, but it is not unique in its ability to forge those connections. Those connections can be found in any walk of life, as long as we approach each situation with intention, passion, courage, love, and an open heart and soul. The theme of today is we are creators. What is the purpose of that which we create? What is the purpose of our lives? We believe that our greatest purpose is to create connections and dissolve divisions. We use music to achieve that goal. We use music to save the world. Thank you. Sure.